Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast presented by Zwift, the indoor cycling app that makes training fun. I'm LR here with Benji, as always, on our Sunday morning to do the EF Education-TIBCO-Silicon Valley Bank. I mean, some of these team names getting out of control here. I'm not going to be able to keep up with this. Anyway, first, mention our show partner, Zwift. We had an awesome inaugural LRCP Zwift group ride last Tuesday. Had a lot of fun with the Q&A with me and Benji. Join us tomorrow for the second one, heading to Benji's favorite course. Actually, I quite like it for a cruise, Tempus Fugit, for a flat 60-minute social ride. We will be discussing the Tour of Oman and Tour de la Provence, the final results, discussing that, talking about me and Benji, our goals for this year, both on Zwift and generally with our cycling fitness. So make sure you join. There's the event description down below, and there's a Discord link in that event description so you can listen in to us during the Q&A. On to EF Education-TIBCO-SVB, a team that's now were Team TIBCO-Silicon Valley Bank. They're a women's world tour team. A lot of transfers. So EF Education, same sponsor as the men's team. They're coming in sponsoring the women's team. They've lost Kristen Faulkner, who was really good for them last year, the American, who won a world tour race for them, and that she's gone to Team Bike Exchange Jayco. Women's team, Sarah Giganti, another one of their most talented riders, poached by Movistar, who want to make her the next Annemiek van Vleuten. They're two big losses for them. Nina Kessler as well to Bike Exchange Jayco. And I'm not sure the riders they've brought in, Benji, I don't think they match the talent level of Faulkner and Giganti.
Honestly, it's not the most enticing transfer season, although most of the squad did indeed change. I think there's three riders in there that are certainly talented and can perform this season. Fourth and a fifth that perhaps can get into a breakaway and do something from there. And in all honesty, I do want to say, just like we said with the Kogias squad back in the day on our previous podcast about Women's World Tour, that I do believe this team is not World Tour worthy in total. I feel like the UCI has been giving UCI World Tour licenses with serial boxes these days, but there's riders in there that do deserve to be in World Tour. And that's, for example, Lizzie Banks, that is strong enough to be in a World Tour squad. And she hasn't had the best season, that's quite certain, but she had a concussion, I think, at Strade Bianche, and that needed a few months of recovery, because I swear I saw an article in June somewhere where she was still recovering. So hope she's completely past that now, that she can perform in the same way she did in previous years. She got 12th in the Giro Femminile in 2020, for example. Won a stager in Tivoli. Pretty punchy rider, can get over quite versatile terrain. Honestly, don't know 100% how well she's at cobble. She got 6th at Omloop, though, so there's potential there to do quite well. So just that combination, races like Ploe and so forth, this is why they can perform. So that's one of the three riders that I see as the spear points of this squad. What do you expect of someone like that?
Yeah, Banks definitely, they want sort of they're buying a bit low, or maybe, I don't know, when they, after she had a bit of an off year. But I just remember her in that break in Ploe with Diagon, just so strong. So keen to see her having a bounce back year. Lauren Stevens, she's still winning. Like, she won, I think, to the feminine or Ardèche stage in 2020. She's 35. She's like a veteran, but she's still really, really good. Emma Langley, another US rider. It's a very US focused team. She actually took out her first win last year at Joe Martin. Oh, is Joe Martin UCI? It is. It's 2.2. She won 2 stages there. But at Tour Feminine L'Ardèche, she actually came second on a stage, on a hilly stage too, behind Bastianelli, ahead of Brand, ahead of Garcia and Leah Thomas. So they'll be wanting to see what she can do. Do you see them winning a World Tour race or a couple of World Tour races this year?
Well, before I answer that, I do want to go to one rider still that they also signed, Letizia Borghesi. We spoke about her before on this podcast. She rode for, was it Basso Bikes this year or last year in 2021, where she was disqualified in the Tour of Flanders by throwing a bottle. And as a consequence, she had an entire thingy around her fine that was too high by the UCI or something. We spoke about it on the podcast before. I don't remember the in-depth details really, but she's actually not a bad rider either. She got 6th in Giro dell'Emilia in 2021. Yes, it was a lower quality field, I believe, than the year before, but it's still against the Zanardi, Lele Vitte, Rachel Nealon, Sierra, and Mavi Garcia. Those are the riders ahead of her, and in all honesty, I do see this as a rider that could also be one of those spear points in the future. Top 25 at Brabantse Pijl, not the most fabulous result yet, but 7 that to the Swiss, for example. With a calendar, a World Tour calendar that we now have, this rider can do something quite certainly for a team like this. She can be leader in races that, for example, Lizzie Banks is not going to. For example, I'd send her to the Giro Rosa, for example, and I would expect her to do relatively decent in there as well. I think she won a stage in that at some point in her career, right? 2019? Yes. She won a stage in the Giro Rosa in 2019 as well. So at the age of 21, very talented rider, now 23. So I'm quite bullish on her.
Yeah, I didn't actually. That's a pretty good background. I didn't know. Like, again, she looks like a rider who's shown talent winning at 21 at the World Tour and what was the biggest stage race in Women's World Tour. Gone a bit off the boil, and now EF have got her, and yeah, we'll see what she can do. I think they should be happy if they win a World Tour race next year. That'd be a start, and I think this is a bit of a project. I think their plan is to build out this roster a little bit more. They've already brought in like Borghese is the first Italian they have, or the first European apart from Catherine Hammers and Tanya Erath. Like it was all US, UK, Canada. So they're building up the roster. Probably a bit more budget now. You'd expect more budget now with EF Education coming in and going up to World Tour. And yeah, I'll see what the team can do. Again, a transition year, I think, for them.
I think that it could also lead to, well, we've spoken about the calendar leading into potentially breakaway victories a bit more in the future in women's cycling as well, because there's not that many teams who can properly control relatively strong breakaways. We saw Omer Shapira, who's also joining the squad, also in a breakaway. Was it in Tokyo where she was together with Kiesenhofer, who eventually won the race? She was in that breakaway, one of the last ones to be dropped as well. So she can get into breakaways and do stuff like that. And for example, a Katrin Hammes can do something like that as well. So I think victories from this team are most likely going to be from either a punchy finish for Banks or a breakaway stage by others, I think.
And Banks has a history of breakaways as well. Her 2 Giro Rosa wins. She went solo when she was on Bigla in 2019, and although then became a key pool car in 2020, she was very strong there. So she has that she's a bit like a Reusser type in the break. So again, that's where I think they can try and pick up some wins. And I think if she's on, they should be successful in doing so. That was our EF Education TIBCO-SVB preview, along with the EF Education Easy Post preview. I do wonder at what point will the teams realize they got to keep the names a bit snappier. But we will soldier through. As I say, it is my burden to bear reading out the full names every time. We hope you enjoyed the preview. Let us know what you think will happen with both teams. Any hot takes of your own. We'll see you on the Zwift group ride tomorrow, 6 p.m. UK time, 7 p.m. European time for our Benji and LR Q&A. Ciao.